Taco Bell or Derik Queen? Which do you prefer?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you joining me here today, and I appreciate you making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more right now. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Well, couple of days ago, we had a player get caught up at a Taco Bell, and we talked about how that situation seemed to have been a little escalated after reading all of the aftermath. But just yesterday, Indiana basketball was in to see five-star center Derik Queen. Of course, we had to relate the two. It was sitting right there. We just had to do it. And when you look at Derik Queen, the five-star center from Montverde down in Florida, this kid can absolutely play. And when you start looking at him and you look at what Indiana is looking for, they really need a win on the recruiting trail. You look at Derik Queen. He's a five-star center in the 2024 class. He's 6'9". He's already built like a brick wall, like a building, if you will. Just a really, really impressive player from the Baltimore area, and we'll talk about why that's significant in just a couple of minutes. But just pull up some film on this kid. He can absolutely play, and he is a massive, massive threat in the painted area. Now, have we seen a whole lot from him outside the painted area? No, I don't think we have. But that can be developed as time goes on. But when you just watch film on him in his high school games, in his AAU games, he is a threat in the paint. If you get him the ball anywhere around it, he's going to make a play. You can get him the ball outside the block, and he can try to bully his way in, which is kind of what he's done through his time in basketball, just watching a lot of his games and getting caught up on him. And he bullies his way into the lane. He can finish strong. His footwork is really, really strong as well. And I think he is good at finishing at the rim. You see a lot of times big name players and bigger players like power forwards and centers, they can get to the rack, but sometimes they have struggles with actually getting the ball in the basket, which I know sounds elementary, but there are a lot of big name players that struggle with that. From what I can see from Derik Queen, he doesn't have that problem. And if he does miss, good thing about him, he is a rebound hog. He is a board man. He is there to clean up the glass, whether it be on his own miss or whether it be on his teammates' misses. He always seems to be in the right position. And those are certain things you just can't teach, right? Those are basketball instincts. That is a high level basketball IQ. And so I mentioned that Derik Queen is from the Baltimore area. It seems like he's down to a few schools. Indiana, of course, Maryland, and Houston. He took visits to those three schools. He also took a visit to LSU, and he also took a visit to Kansas as well. And being from the Baltimore area, I know he's playing down in Florida, but being from the Baltimore area, yeah, you're having to deal with recruiting against Maryland, the hometown school, going after the hometown kid, right? But let's compare some programs for just a second. You have a chance to play for Indiana basketball and head coach Mike Woodson, or you can play for Maryland, which is becoming a much better program in the Big Ten. But I just don't know if that's where you want to go when you're looking for high-level play, getting to the next level, which a guy like Derik Queen is absolutely trying to do. He's the number 12 recruit overall in this 2024 class. And a little bit later, we'll talk about why Indiana is really, really looking to get another big name recruit, since they've missed out on a couple of them here in the last couple of weeks. Looking at him, he wants to commit before signing day coming up on November 8th. That's right around the corner. And the fact that Indiana was down there just this week, talking with him, visiting with him, that is a massive, massive sign. And he's been to Indiana before, and now they brought Indiana to him with head coach Woodson. So this is a really, really skillful player. Some of the notes that I wrote down for him: great size. He's already got muscle. He's already a big guy. When you just watch him play, he is just a visibly big guy. And the good thing about that is you can add on to that, but he will probably be able to handle and hang around and hang his own when he gets to the college game. Hopefully it's here in Indiana, right? But even if it's not, he's going to be able to handle himself pretty well as soon as he gets to the college game. Very muscular. Footwork on the block is key. I talked about that, how you get him the ball anywhere around the basket and he's going to get a shot up, which I think is really important in this offense, especially if he's got a guard like Xavier Johnson who can get him the basketball. Absolutely. Well, Xavier Johnson obviously gone, but you know what I'm talking about. If you can get guards in here next year for a guy like Derik Queen, who all they need is the ball. That's all they need. They need the basketball. And if you can get guards in here next year that can get them that, he's going to make something happen. He has some mid-range floaters in the lane where he kind of turns around to get away from the defense and can create his own shot inside. Does he have a lot of outside game? Not really. The only knock I have against him is not a ton of defensive highlights. But I think that's something he could develop in Indiana, right? I think Indiana would absolutely say, look, you want to play on offense? You're going to have to play some defense as well. And I think that could be something that is developed. But if he's just dominant on offense and can pick up some sort of a defensive game, I mean, the guy's 6'9". He's going to be a presence inside somewhere. That is a good thing for Indiana. And here's another really important factor. In case you didn't know, his current teammate in high school, Liam McNeely, yeah, he's the one that just committed to Indiana just a couple of days ago, right? Within the last week or so. And that is a huge, huge deal. Who's a power forward, who have played together. They've known each other since 7th grade. Could you imagine a power forward and a center, both 5 stars, coming in at the same time for an Indiana basketball team? For any basketball team, really. That is really, really strong for team chemistry, on-floor chemistry, communication, timing, all of those things that matter in college basketball. That is a huge, huge factor. And you better believe that Liam McNeely is recruiting Derik Queen to say, hey, come to Bloomington. Come play with the Hoosiers. Come be a part of a class that can be really special and a team that can be really, really special. I'm excited. I think Indiana has a good chance here. I know it seems like there's some fans that maybe aren't as hopeful in this recruiting process, given how the Boogie Fland thing went down. And that's where we go next here on the show, is with the Boogie Fland news of Indiana missing out on him. How can the Hoosiers avoid another situation like that? There's a couple of steps that the Hoosiers can take in regards to Derik Queen, the 5-star center, and avoiding what we saw just a couple of weeks ago. But before we do that, I want to remind you that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Jace Medical. There are a lot of uncertainty and just a lot of scary things in the world today, and it's important to be prepared. Right? It's important to be prepared for these things. And you have unrest in the Middle East right now. You have the fires that were happening in Hawaii, which was just a tragic, tragic event. hurricanes and natural disasters seem to be at an all-time high. These can lead to supply chain shortages and medications and the inability to get medications in a timely manner. The solution? It's the Jace case. The Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based off of your unique needs. That's what's really, really cool about this Jace case is you can select what you want in it for an emergency situation. For somebody like myself, a young adult that lives at home by myself, a Jace case is the perfect solution if something bad is happening in the outside world and I can't get out to get what I need. There's not a whole lot of family around for me personally that I can call up and have bring me something in a case of an emergency. And so the Jace case is perfect for me, and it's also going to be perfect for you and your family. Jace Medical now offers customizing options for your Jace case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose the medications that best fit you and your family's unique needs. Jace is continually working to expand their medication offerings. In those recent efforts, they added ivermectin as an option in the Jace case. You can also buy gift cards for Jace case. As Christmas comes up, we're only a couple of months away. I mean, less than 2 months away now for Christmas coming up. It's coming up fast. You can buy gift cards for Jace case for your friends, for your family members, and they can get a Jace case of their own and customize it. Go to jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON at JASEmedical.com. Today's show is also brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. With FanDuel, you're able to snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. Here's an example. If you're looking at the Indiana football game this weekend as they travel to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions, you may not like the spread a whole lot because of Indiana. They're 31.5-point underdogs. But maybe you think Indiana's going to hang around like I do. Throw a little bit on there. See what happens if Indiana can win. You have $5 and new customers get that $200 in bonus bets absolutely free. Over-unders 45.5 right now in Indiana and Penn State this weekend. If you like it, go check them out at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season, kick off the college season as we are underway, halfway through that. NFL just now getting started a few weeks in. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Be sure you go and check them out at FanDuel. Well, we've talked about Derik Queen, and we've talked about how Indiana has visited him, and they're trying to lock him down as another 5-star in the 2024 recruiting class. But there's a lot of people that are maybe not as excited about this or trying not to get their hopes up about this because of what happened just a couple of days and weeks ago with Boogie Fland, right? This was literally a few days ago. It's still fresh. It's still pretty raw. And seems like a lot of you Indiana fans are just ready to get hurt again when it comes to a big 5-star, because we know how much Indiana wanted Boogie Fland. And we know how much you, the fan, were excited, and a lot of you were convinced, and rightfully so, about Boogie Fland, the high-flying 5-star guard that ultimately chose Kentucky over Indiana. And I think that's what a lot of the hurt was in that situation was not only did he not pick the Hoosiers, he picked John Calipari and the Wildcats. And There's no Indiana fan in the world that likes to see that. You miss out on him, and he goes to one of the other big name programs in college basketball. And again, of all schools, it was Kentucky and John Calipari, because of course it was. Why? My quick 2 cents on that. I think it's because of what John Calipari has done with guards at Kentucky and guards in general. Not saying that Indiana hasn't put guards in the league. There's a lot of them right now in the league. I mean, the majority of Indiana players over the years have been guards that go and play in the NBA. But no matter what, Boogie Fland chose Kentucky. And so I think there's a lot of Indiana fans that were not really focused on Derik Queen, and maybe he was a second or third option when it came to top targets in the 2024 class. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but here's what Indiana has to do to try and avoid that situation again, right? Because it hurts to lose a guy like that, and it hurts to get your hopes up and then it not work out, right? And you miss out on that big recruit. And we know this happens, right? This is college recruiting. You are recruiting high school kids. We talk about this all the time in football, basketball, baseball, any sport. You're going to have recruiting losses. You're going to have some big wins. You're going to have some big losses. And you're going to have some wins that you didn't expect. And you're going to have some losses that you didn't expect. And I think that's what happened with Boogie Fland. But now it's time for Indiana to change their focus and go get Derik Queen. If you can pull a guy like this, you now regain some momentum in this 2024 class. And here's a fact that I think is really, really interesting. Indiana has landed a 5-star in the last 3 straight classes, and they already have one with Liam McNeely. Imagine if you add 2 in this 3rd class. That is a splash in recruiting. Other recruits see that. And I think if other recruits see 2 teammates choosing the same program, I think that speaks volumes as well. And I think that is a win in itself. If I'm being completely honest with you, I think that would be a win in itself. And I've seen fans over the last couple of days with the news that Indiana was going to go visit Derik Queen and starting to hear some of the rumblings about this situation. I've seen some fans, some Hoosier fans, crying about NIL and preaching about NIL and complaining about the NIL and maybe even worrying about the NIL. And that's a legitimate concern, just not for Indiana. When's the last time in this new era that I know is very, very new, when is the last time that we are truly convinced that Indiana basketball missed out on a recruit because of NIL money? I don't think there is one. And if there is, let me know, because I don't think there is. I think Indiana is competing in the NIL space. We know where the money goes when it comes to Indiana athletics, and we know where donors want to be, and they understand that's how the game is played, whether you like that factor or not, whether you like that's where athletics are or not in today's game of college athletics. It's just a fact of the matter. So I don't think NIL is a problem here at all. I really, really don't. I think Indiana just has to win a recruiting battle. And you thought it was going to be with Fland. It didn't. And now you've got to turn your attention to Derik Queen. And I mentioned already that it seems like a lot of Indiana fans are like, well, if we get Derik Queen, awesome. We're going to be excited about it, but we're not getting our hopes up. Why not? Why not get your hopes up? Why not get excited and show support and show what makes Indiana basketball so special? It's the fan base. It's the atmosphere. It's the support of Hoosier fans to the Hoosier players and the Hoosier faithful. Why not get excited and show this guy why he should be playing in Bloomington, Indiana? I mean, I think I get it, right? You're not wanting to get burned again. I totally understand. But I think you have to turn and support the program that has been successful in recruiting the last couple of years and can really turn the page with head coach Mike Woodson, who still getting underway in his Indiana basketball career as a head coach. So I've seen people ask this question: is Derik Queen a must get? My answer to that is no. I don't think he's a must get because you do have other options. But I think he is a very important piece to this 2024 class and would really boost your confidence in the team moving forward and the recruiting rankings moving forward as well. So is he a must get? Absolutely not. But it would be a massive bonus for a couple of reasons. A, because of the guys you've missed out on already. And B, you could team him up with McNeely, who's already committed to play for the Hoosiers, a teammate of Derik Queen. So Indiana fans, I tell you this: if we get him, we need to be excited. We need to be over the top excited because he's the number 12 player ranked in the country. But if he does choose Maryland, or if he does choose Houston, or if he does choose to go somewhere else other than be a Hoosier, you got to let him go, right? Let him do his thing. Don't be upset. Don't go after him, right? Let's avoid doing that on social media. I'm not a fan of all that, right? Going after a recruit if he doesn't pick your school. I think all that's ridiculous. Support him. Let him do his thing. But if he becomes an Indiana Hoosier and decides that this is where he wants to be, show him the love, show him the support, because this guy can absolutely play, and Derik Queen would be a huge get for Indiana basketball. Coming up, we'll talk some Indiana football here on Locked On Hoosiers. We'll talk about Indiana and the offense and how it has to get better before you play Penn State on the road this weekend. I talked about the point spread in the FanDuel, in our showing love to FanDuel. Indiana's got to find a way to score some points on offense in football this weekend when they travel to Happy Valley. But first, want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. eBay Motors is a really, really good place to be. I'm an eBayer myself, and I've sold parts on eBay Motors. I know it's crazy, but it is a really, really great website and a great source if you're looking for car parts and anything to do with your vehicles. eBay Motors is passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Also want to remind you of our weekly college football live show, kickoff live show here on Locked On. College football season is here, and this season Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live at 11 a.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel that includes Locked On Hoosiers. You won't want to miss it. And speaking of college football, Indiana taking on Penn State this weekend, and the offense has to get better. I mean, that's what it comes down to for me with this Indiana offense. They have to get better, but you have to ask the question, okay, how? How do they get better? How do they do that? And how can they keep themselves in ball games playing in Big Ten play? Well, offensive coordinator Rod Carey spoke earlier this week about a couple of topics. One of them was to start out his weekly interview. He said we got to avoid third and long. He was asked about the mindset and sort of the game plan on third and longs. And he said, well, step one is avoid getting in third and longs. And yeah, he's absolutely right. For an offense like Indiana that struggles to move the ball and struggles to score, when you don't pick up a whole lot on first and second down, or you're committing penalties that get you in those third and long situations, you are setting yourself up to fail. And you're asking a lot of this really fresh offense to convert third and longs when they're struggling to just pick up a first down in general. And so he said, look, first plan is to avoid third and longs. But then he said the mindset and game plan doesn't change a whole lot, especially at this point in the season, because you're already over halfway through. So if you can avoid those situations, you're going to be a whole lot better off. He was asked about quarterback Brendan Sorsby, who, of course, started in the game against Rutgers. You could see the talent, I think, is what he mentioned, and I agree. I think you can see the talent, but he mentioned how there's just some things you got to work on with Sorsby, and a lot of those are fundamental things. Those will come with experience, some overthrows, some missed throws, a little bit of timing issues as well. I think those things can be fixed as he goes on in his career, and hopefully those are things that you can fix in practice leading up to games like Penn State and like some of the easier games that you're going to have down the stretch, like we talked about with Purdue and Illinois on the schedule later on. So I think that's an important factor. And here's the biggest one for me. For Indiana's offense in college football this season to continue to try and improve, we know Indiana's a run-first team. I think they need to do it more. I think Indiana needs to run the ball even more than what they are. And they're a run-heavy team. Believe me, look at the rushing versus passing attempts on Saturday against Rutgers. It was heavy, heavy runs. But I think they should do it more, especially now with the hopeful emergence of Trent Lowland, who is a really big back, has a lot of potential, and I think could be your go-to guy. But Rod Carey said, look, we're looking for those it guys right now. You've seen flashes all over the place. You've seen potential in a lot of places, but Indiana offensively still looking for the go-to guys. And he said it was outside of the running back room too. He did say it was just offensively in general, but I really think you're seeing that in the running back room. And I think you need to run the ball even more. Until somebody proves consistently that they can stop this Indiana running offense, and I know it's not great by any means, but that is the bread and butter, and that is the strength of the Indiana offense. Until you can really get comfortable with Sorsby back there at quarterback, why not run the ball? And I think coming up this weekend against Penn State, you're going to have to sustain some drives. You're going to have to sustain some drives, and you're going to have to put some points on the board. I know Ohio State stopped Penn State offensively and allowed them to score a whopping 12 points in a football game, but I don't see that happening again. There's a reason Penn State's a heavy, heavy favorite, and Vegas is saying they're going to beat you by over 4 touchdowns. I don't believe that. I really don't. I think Indiana can hang in this game, but the offense has to click. You're going to have to put some drives together. No more 3 and outs, and keep the defense on the sidelines a little bit and build a little confidence on offense for Indiana football. And I think that starts by running the ball. I really, really do. If you can run the ball effectively, opens up the passing game, get this offense a little more comfortable, get them some confidence, as it's an ever-changing offense, it seems like at this point in the season. That'll help you this Saturday on the road against Penn State. And we know how you can win effectively on the road, establish the running game, and be running the football. Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you tuning in and making Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day. Be sure to comment below about recruiting. Are you excited about Derik Queen if he does commit to Indiana? Are you confident that he will commit to Indiana? And how do you feel about the Indiana football offense? Can they improve this weekend against Penn State? Comment down below if you're on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Download it, listen wherever you get your podcast. Be sure you follow me on Twitter, follow the show on Twitter as well. Crossover episode coming tomorrow. You don't want to miss it with Lance Dahl, host of Locked On Kentucky. We're going to talk about the renewed rivalry of Indiana and Kentucky as the two teams will be playing some more coming up in the next couple of years. Excited to have him on. We'll have that for you tomorrow here on Locked On Hoosiers, and Friday, a full Indiana and Penn State preview. You won't want to miss it to wrap up the week. Until tomorrow, stay safe. I'll talk to you later, and go Hoosiers.